Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Colby Keefe. Colby, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, man. The honor is all mine. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You started reviewing movies in April, kind of just past the time after your mother had passed away, which I
Mhm,
totally understand. I lost my mother as well, and I'm sorry about your loss. It's never easy. So you created Colby Does Horror, and
mhm.
things just kind of took off for you, man. And it's so amazing to see the growth. Someone that's been following you for a while to watch the growth and how far you've come in such a short time because you've been into horror since you were a kid.
Mhm.
But, as a Navy veteran, which by the way, thank you, and a former MMA fighter, so thank you also for not punching me in the face. Um, just a normal family guy that likes to watch a lot of horror movies. So, what gave you the drive to actually start doing Colby Does Horror?
Honestly, it was just, well, before it was Colby Does Horror, we started this one podcast called the Horror House Podcast, and doing the podcast and the TikToks and Instagram, it was literally just an outlet to take my mind off of everything that was going on at the time, and yeah, it just it just kind of took off.
And like I said, it's amazing to watch the growth. And the horror community is genuinely one of the best communities in the world. And we're always rooting for each other. We're always kind of tied together and
Mhm.
are wanting for everybody to succeed. And the best way you guys can keep up with Colby and all the amazing things he does is by following him on all his social media platforms. And those links are right down in the description below. So please make sure you're clicking those. Make sure you're giving Colby a follow. One of my favorite follows on Instagram. I love his reviews. He gets to the point. He's blunt. He knows what he's talking about, and he just wants to let you know whether he loves or hates a movie. So, before we actually get rolling, we are almost to the end of 2024. What has been your favorite movie of the year so far?
So far for me, um, yeah, the embargo is up tomorrow, so I can talk about it now. There's one that releases on the 18th. It is called I Will Never Leave You Alone, and it is insane. That and Terrifier 3 are my favorites right now.
Nice, man. And you guys all probably saw Terrifier 3 yesterday, so I hope you guys all enjoyed it and had a great time with it. We saw it at the time of filming. We'll
Mm,
be seeing it tonight, but when you guys are watching, it'll be 2 days in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed your viewing as well. And I'm glad to hear you liked it, man. I know that I'm very excited. I've heard crazy things. I don't know much because I don't watch anybody's reviews until I see a movie because
mm.
I don't want it to get this predisposition in my head. But uh Art the Clown, it's just amazing what Damien is able to do with this character and how far this character's come from All Hallows Eve to now and the horror icon that he's become.
That's why I love it so much, is because obviously I'm a huge supporter of indie horror. It's mostly what I talk about on my channel, but how small they came from to where they are now with worldwide theatrical releases, it's insane. And that team, because I was at the world premiere at Fantastic Fest, and I actually got to go in the VIP area, hang out with Damien, all the actors and everything, and they're just some of the most genuine people.
Yeah. Dude, and I'm so happy for you because I love David. One thing I can
Mhm.
say about David is we had him on my first horror movie, and we saw him a couple months later at Horror Hound, and he remembered us. He was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
Sledgehammer," like that to me was super cool. Like this guy sees how many people, and he was actually able to remember us. And
Right.
Amelie McLean, the little pale girl, like we've become very good friends with her mother, and she's one of the best moms in the world. Like she's really, daughter first, protective over her. So really cool to see this whole family come together and how
Mhm.
close knit they all are with each other. So that's also a
Yeah.
huge plus.
I just interviewed Lauren Lavera like 3 hours ago, and she remembered me from Fantastic Fest too. And that's what I said, was because she's worked on so many other projects. And I told her I feel like Terrifier, like that whole crew from the producers to the actors, it just feels like one big family. And she's like, that's the best way to explain it.
Right. And it makes you want to fall in love with the movie even more because
Hmm.
going from indie darlings to, the height of the most success.
Right.
And you couldn't be more proud of them for that. So let us know what you guys thought of Terrifier 3 down in the comments. Please keep it spoiler free because it's brand new. But
Hmm.
um, in order for you to be doing what you're doing, with Kobe Does Horror and being the horror maniac that you are, horror had to start for you somewhere, Kobe. So now I
Hmm.
would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, and Colby, the first horror movie you watched was.
So it's like a tie between Scream and Monster Squad, but I think Monster Squad was I think that's what I watched before Scream, but I think that's the one that really shaped me into who I am now.
Yeah. And it's one of those movies that's like one of the perfect gateway horror movies because it kind of introduces you to horror, but you also get that huge introduction to the universal monsters. And
Yeah.
it's still scary enough to where a child is going to be freaked out by this movie. So, do you remember about how old you were when you seen Monster Squad for the first time?
I want to say like 3 or 4.
Man, and it's such an impactful movie, like, I always put this and The Gate together, like, that to me is, like, the perfect double feature night,
Mhm.
to watch Monster Squad and then watch The Gate, watching those 2 movies back to back, and Monster Squad, especially for kids that are really into horror, it feels like you're watching your peers,
Mhm.
it feels like you're watching the kids that you grew up with at that same time, do you remember who you were with when you watched Monster Squad for the first time?
I think it was my cousins. I mean, I
It's
was
always
so
the
young.
cousins or the big brothers, man.
Yeah. I was just so young, but I know I had it on VHS and I would watch it over and over and over, like probably every day.
It's and it still holds up. I still
Oh,
love Monster
absolutely.
Squad to this day, and it's very effective. A very effective movie with a lot of effective scenery, but what would you say the scene was that affected you the most?
So I have two. The first one was when they're all in the clubhouse and they're like quizzing Rudy if he can be part of the club or not, and just them talking about horror. I was like, I love this, and even as I get older, still love that scene. And then obviously the biggest scene of the movie is probably the Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's got nards! Come on! Come on!
Like as
And
a kid, I thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
I think, that's one thing that really stuck with all of us, and what I love about that scene too, um, that scene was even in the trailer.
Mhm.
You're like, there's no way they would put that in a trailer today. Kick him in the nards. Like I love that, man. And our friend Barry over at Wolfman's Got Nards, amazing YouTube channel as well. A lot of people don't know where he got the name, and I'm like, oh God, dude, educate him, let him know what's going on, because what an amazing, funny moment in that movie. And I'm with you. I love when they're quizzing him. They're like, what can kill a vampire? And he's like, daylight. He's
Mhm.
like, "Pfft, it's sunlight. Like, what other light is there in the day, man? Like, it's such it like I said, it really holds up and it feels like you're watching your peers and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
we know what scenes affected you, Kobe, but what would you say your favorite scene from Monster Squad is?
Honestly, when I was a kid, it was anything Rudy was in. Rudy, I wanted to be Rudy. Like the leather jacket, his bike, just the way he held himself and presented himself. Like I wanted to be that dude when I was a kid.
Yeah. And again, he was the badass,
Hmm.
to us. That's the badass guy, man. That was the outsiders for me, man. Like Pony Boy, Johnny, like that's who I'm gonna be when I get older, man. I'm gonna roll my cigarettes up in my sleeves and wear a leather jacket, and I'm gonna be the bee's knees, man.
Yep.
Um, and it's amazing how like I said, watching these pushes us to the future. And if you hadn't watched Monster Squad when you did, maybe you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now. So, how much do you think Monster Squad had an effect on what you're doing now in horror?
I'd say a huge part that, but I mean, then I saw Scream as a kid too, and Scream is what just blew my mind because it was seeing this villain talk about other villains as if they're in the same universe, kind of like it was meta, obviously.
Mhm.
And just Scream and Monster Squad, they just two movies that blew my mind as a kid. So if I didn't have either of those, no, I don't think I would be where I am today.
Right. And again, Scream really flipped horror on its head when it came out,
Mm,
man. Like, 1996, it was not cool to watch horror unless it was Halloween time. Scream comes out and horror is cool again. Like, it really revamped horror and made it cool. You weren't weird if you liked horror anymore after Scream had came out.
I don't think horror would be where it is today without Scream.
100% agree. Hard agree. It really did take everything to a new level.
Right.
It upped the ante on everything. Thank God Wes Craven's New Nightmare bombed because that movie walked so Scream could run.
Mhm.
If Wes Craven's New Nightmare was a hit, we might not have gotten Scream. We might have continued the metaverse in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So,
Mhm.
um, but I
And
agree
it's
with you.
funny because
Like
New Nightmare's one of my favorite out of the franchises too.
me too. Like
New Nightmare and Dream Warriors are my two favorite.
for me, it's New Nightmare and the Dream Master.
Mhm.
Nostalgia kicks my ass when it comes to the Dream Master, man. I fucking adore that film. So, talking about Monster Squad, is this, obviously right now in Hollywood, remakes, requels, sequels is kind of all the rage, especially in horror. Is
Mhm.
this a movie you would like to see them take another stab at today, either with like a remake or a requel or something like that?
If it's done right, like you said earlier, it still holds up tremendously, but I wouldn't mind it because it would bring light to the original if they did remake it. And if they got the right director, the right actors, I think it could be very successful.
Yeah.
But mainly
And
just bringing light to the original because I still don't think a lot of people know about that movie.
it's funny because when Halloween 2018 come out, the views and sales on Halloween 78 skyrocketed.
Hmm.
Same thing with The Exorcist Believer. Same thing with Scream, Five Cream, whatever the hell you want to call that one. People go back and revisit it, or people that had never seen it go back and watch it for the first time so they can be ready for this new one. So that's why I always say there's no such thing as a bad remake. Bad
Hmm.
remakes do not exist. Yeah, there's a shit movie, but it can still give you pause because it takes you back to that first one and introduces people to it that maybe have never seen it before. So I completely and totally agree with you on that aspect.
Yeah, it's
Um,
funny that you said that because I made a whole video about remakes versus originals, about the elitists saying how they should not remake or touch anything, and I was like, that's not true at all because the biggest thing is it it brings light and recognition to the original. So
mhm.
that's my biggest argument right there.
See, the only thing I can't talk shit on, as I've said numerous times, they can't remake Jaws or Back to the Future. Like, leave those movies alone.
I agree with that. I agree with
Like,
that.
when it comes to remakes, those are the only two where I'm like, hey, come on, let's just leave these two alone, man. I love them too
Untouchable.
much. Like that's just it to me. But we talked about your first horror movie being Monster Squad and what this movie means to you.
Mhm.
But here for a second, my little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Kobe? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
My favorite horror movie of all time is The Shining.
Nice, man. Um, a movie that again, I think it gets so much credit because it exists in so many genres.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, whenever you see Danny riding the tricycle, I don't have to show you the audio. You hear that moment.
Yep.
Like you hear that and all the little Easter eggs and stuff they put in. I know Stephen King's not a big fan of it, and Mr. King, you've shaped my life more than you could possibly ever know, but I disagree with you on this one. I absolutely love the Kubrick's vision of The Shining, and I'm also one of the people that absolutely loves Doctor Sleep. I
Yes,
think,
me too.
oh my gosh, man, that's again, we did a top 10 favorite horror sequels. That was number one for me. Like that is my favorite horror sequel. It tops Evil Dead 2, Aliens, everything. I think it's that good to me, and it's
It
it's
is.
a shame how underrated that movie is.
Even though The Shining is my favorite movie, I think Doctor Sleep is arguably better.
I wasn't gonna say
It's
it
a
because I
hot
didn't
take.
want
It's a
to.
hot take, but
I didn't want to disrespect your favorite movie, man, but I 100% agree. I think Doctor Sleep to me is I like it more than I like The Shining, man. And
mm,
again, I'm not throwing shade at The Shining. I'm not saying The
no, not
Shining
at
is
all.
worse. I'm just saying that Doctor Sleep is better. Like again,
It
I think The
really is.
Shining helped to shape especially PTSD, alcoholism,
Mhm.
subtext in a horror movie, addiction subtext. A lot of people look at Jack Nicholson's portrayal when they're trying to do that, that abusive behavior that he brings out, and how he does it in such a way that is still charismatic. When you see me and you hear this, and he's still Jack Nicholson. So you still have that feeling of, God, I fucking love this guy. Like
Yeah.
he puts everything into what he does. And another brilliant thing Kubrick did, and I never knew this. A friend had sent me this video, and I'll link it down in the description for you guys. I'm going to write that down right now so I don't forget. Throughout the movie, Jack purposely makes eye contact with the camera a lot. to try to make you feel unsettled. Like he's
Mhm.
looking directly at you, and that was purposeful. That was not a Jack Nicholson looking at the camera. Like it's completely on purpose. It's to make you, the viewer, feel uncomfortable because he sent me this video where it shows all of them, all the different times he's looking at the camera, and it talks about it. And that's brilliant to me because they never make light of it. They never show you or talk about it. But yet he's always just, making those moments where he looks right at you just to make you, the viewer, feel uncomfortable. And that's genius to me.
Mhm.
You know,
I
he
wonder
never,
if that was Stanley's idea or if that was Jack's idea for that.
right. Because either way, both those guys are geniuses.
Yes.
So, those two working together. Another thing you could check out, everybody. I probably won't be able to find this one, but I see the video at one point that replaced Jack Nicholson's face in The Shining with Jim Carrey's. And
I've
it
seen
was,
that.
dude, isn't that crazy? Like,
I
it's,
think it was on Facebook I saw it.
yeah, I was like, God, he resembles Jack so much with his
Mhm.
faces that he makes. I wonder how much of an influence Nicholson was on him and his ability to change those faces and stuff. So I thought that was awesome too.
I can see it being a huge influence because Jim Carrey, he's such a dark person. Like he's so bubbly and funny, but he's got some demons and like he loves horror, he loves metal. So I can see that being a very strong possibility.
And it's amazing because we were just watching an interview with him and he was talking about, why do I act? Because I have all these demons,
Hmm.
because I am a dark person. And it's just like, it breaks your heart to hear that, like and you think about Robin Williams, the
Yep.
happiest people that try to make you smile are the ones that are battling the most demons. And they want everybody else around them to never feel the way they do. So it sucks, man, to have to go back and think about that. And especially with Robin, he wasn't able to battle those demons.
Right.
I mean, talking to you about this is amazing, man. And I've had an amazing time talking with you. But before I let you go, Kobe, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to Monster Squad. And what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now,
Okay.
we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing is ranking this movie on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Colby, what would your ranking of Monster Squad be?
It would be a very strong 5.
I figured.
Very strong 5.
It's funny because even now, like that does seem, because it's not, people outside of the horror genre don't know Monster Squad the way that people in the genre do. So I do
Right.
feel like it is almost like that type of indie horror. I mean, look at your back wall right there. You've got Terrifier, you've got Circus of the Dead, and
I
you've got one of
got
the earliest indie horror films in Evil Dead right there too,
yep.
man. And like a college project, man. And like I love your dedication to independent horror because
Mhm.
especially in the recent Big C, indie horror kept us afloat, man.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to make a movie. It is so hard to make a horror movie, especially. You got to have timing and the timing to scare people and the timing to make people laugh. And, indie horror is also my favorite. I'm with you. I love watching people succeed and getting their films out on Tubi and Prime and just the excitement that it brings the community. So thank you for all the work that you do. And remember, guys, you can become a part of that by following Kobe on all his social media. Those links are down in the description. So, Kobe, please don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.